Your blog posts are invisible, not because they're bad, but because Google literally cannot find them. AI-generated content isn't killing SEO, lazy founders are. You can't dump a ChatGPT prompt, hit publish, and expect leads. It's not a content strategy. So what actually moves the needle? Start with your domain authority. If it's under 35, Google is basically ghosting you. Fix it with backlinks. Not bought in bulk that'll get you penalized, but earned through podcasts and press hits and showing up where your industry lives. Every podcast appearance, every media mention, every Reddit thread you engage in is a vote of credibility to Google and every LLM that's deciding whether you exist. LLM optimization, it sounds revolutionary, but it's not. It's just good SEO with an omnichannel layer on top. The brands that win in AI search are the ones that are doing the boring fundamentals right, the title tags, the H1s, internal links, image alt text, and the FAQs that answer questions before anyone asks them. So you need good content, so just keep it simple. If someone Googled the exact problem your product solves right now, will they find an answer? Welcome to AI for Founders, I'm Ryan Estes. Today's guest built a content system that gets founders indexed, ranked, and found, without them writing a single word. This one's for early stage founders who know they need SEO but have zero time to execute. That's Kaelan from trynina.co. Want frameworks like this every week? The AI for Founders newsletter at aiforfounders.co breaks down the exact playbooks, tools, and experiments that are working right now. It's the unfair advantage in your inbox. Subscribe today. And if this episode made you smarter, a 5-star review takes 10 seconds and it keeps the algorithm gods very, very happy. Pay it forward. I'll love you for it. Kaelan, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me, man. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure. We're going to talk a little bit about your company, which people can check out. It's trynina.co. The company is called Nina. And you are a content writer for founders and for folks. So I'm really hoping to have a conversation around distribution, SEO, AEO, GEO. What's the difference between all that? But before we do that, give us an introduction to Nina.
Yeah, so Nina really, at its core, we're a content writing system for your website where we write blogs very specifically. What we do is we write blogs that are SEO centric. You know, they have the right data markups behind them. They have the right breakdown so that Google is very happy to crawl that information and log that information and deliver it up to the client, to the searcher's desire. So that actually came out of a need for one of the businesses that I own. I'm a serial entrepreneur. I have a couple different ventures. And we realized that, you can have a great social media team, you can have a great website, but at the end of the day, on-site content is a major driver for organic traffic. So we built Nina to essentially deliver for that business. It works so well, we decided to commercialize it and bring it to the public.
Amazing. I love it. And, this is like an absolute necessity for folks, especially startups, because you buy a new domain and you got to season that domain and get it indexed. So let's kind of begin there. What's kind of the secret code to getting Google just to index your pages? You can submit it to, the Google Search Console. And then after that, what is Google looking for?
Honestly, I want to highlight just actually manually submitting your content through Google Search Console. Very few people are aware to even do that. So anytime you add a new page to your website, you release a new product, a new blog, whatever it might be, go to Search Console, manually index that. The key to getting your content indexed faster is your domain authority. The lower domain authority you have, the lower credibility Google essentially associates with your domain, and the less frequently they're crawling it and then indexing the new content on your website. So if you want easy indexing, cool, have a domain score, domain authority over 35, 40. The vast majority of people don't have that. So you do rely on manually indexing. Once you submit your content to index through Google Search Console, Google will crawl that site and then they will determine if that information is valuable or not. If it's not valuable, we call that thin content. Thin content is, a page that doesn't have internal links, doesn't have external links, has either very little information or has so much information that's just kind of jargon and doesn't actually provide value. So making sure that once your site is crawled to get indexed and permanently logged in Google, it needs to be relevant to what the people are looking for. It needs to have actual information that provides true value, has linking structure, and is also relatively recent. Google doesn't seem to care about content that's on your site that's 3, 4, 5 years old. That's why when people have blogs on their website, we recommend one, always be releasing blog content, but also go back to the content you released 5 years ago. update it a little bit, make some changes, change that H1, change that publishing date, and then make sure that it's actually getting indexed. Staying on top of your content and making sure that your site is active in Google's eyes is a great way for it to be crawled more regularly. And then hopefully your content is good enough that it's getting indexed more regularly.
Amazing. So when we're thinking about domain authority, obviously if you've got, a 15-year-old website that's been continuously upgraded, that's going to be great for domain authority. What else contributes to that?
Backlinks. So I'm going to kind of speak to two things. It's on-site content and backlinks. Time is a major factor for domain authority, but if you have a one-page website that doesn't have on-site content and doesn't really have any links from media outlets or other businesses or government agencies, then it doesn't really provide that much credibility to Google. So if we're trying to increase our domain authority, backlinks are probably the number one thing you should go after. Traditional effort to get backlinks is really PR. So getting the local news to cover you, get industry-specific media to cover you. That is a really, really valuable effort because those sites have high domain authority, and then them writing about you and linking to your website is essentially extending their authority to you. Google now sees you as more credible. You can go and buy backlinks through a variety of different services that are out there. I would just recommend that people are very sensitive and reserved when they do that. If all of a sudden you buy 10 backlinks and they all point to the same page, Google notices that that's not normal behavior. So we need to, if you're trying to manipulate, your Google's perspective of your website, buy backlinks very sparingly and make sure that you're pointing them at different pages on your site, not just trying to get 100 backlinks to your homepage. That's going to be very suspicious to Google. If Google sees you're doing that, then they will absolutely punish you. They do not want you doing that. It is kind of a gray area for Google. So PR is the best way. That does not mean you need a PR team. That means that you can just go and do outreach like this. We can get on a podcast, get a link from that. We can go and do our own press release. Press releases links don't necessarily follow, but you can be your own PR engine. You don't have to spend $5-10 grand a month on a PR team. The other contributing factor that we see as a major driver is on-site content. If you only have one page of content, you only have those words on that page that Google can line up with people that are searching for you. So the more pages and the more words you have on your site, the more Google can understand who you are, what you do, and why you do it, so that when people are searching, they can kind of connect the dots a little bit clearer. So make sure you have enough on-site content that's relative to what people are going to be looking for, and make sure that you're building your authority outside of just your site by getting those backlinks through media hits, through podcasts, through social media shout-outs. Like, you want other people giving you credit because that's how Google is going to raise that domain authority for you over time.
You bet. Now, I kind of along these lines, I spend a lot of time really doing really great show notes, if I'm going to say that for myself. But I spend a lot of time, and the team does a great job doing that because I want that to be a great driver for them. So if I publish a podcast, it goes to the website, it has a backlink to Kaelan's website, it has a backlink to Kaelan's LinkedIn or wherever he wants me to send traffic. So there's backlinks there on the website. It's also publishing to God knows how many podcast catchers that are out there, probably 50 plus. And so that URL is also in the show notes. So, when you're going on a podcast, are you getting credit for all those backlinks on all those different podcast players?
It really depends on how they have their link structure set up. You can set up links as follow or no follow links. And so it's going to come down to that, where that content is published on if it's going to be a follow or no follow link. So always focus on the primary place that you're communicating. For this podcast, cool. Want to make sure that this is a link back to us. That's great credibility. Once it leaves this, the direct interaction we're having, we have less control over that. So it is, hopefully everybody that's sharing the show notes are including follow links. If they're not, that is unfortunate from an SEO perspective, but this is where GEO becomes more valuable. I'm historically a hater on the term GEO because a lot of GEO is basically just doing good SEO and then laying in an omni-channel marketing approach on top of that. What we found with LLMs is Google cares about links, the direct follow links. That is how Google grades credibility. For LLMs, they're looking at content in context. And what I mean by that is If that press release or that this podcast gets disseminated across 200 different outlets, when an LLM is looking for information on me, they're going to be looking at all of the available information that's out there, not just information that's linked directly to me. So that's where that dissemination of this podcast is beneficial from a GEO perspective, because LLMs will see that, cool, there's 200 new places that reference, Kaelan's and audio in the context of content marketing. So that's really great. But from a Google perspective, it really comes down to, each individual website and the link structure that they associate behind the links that they pull from this podcast.
While you were recording your last episode, Casey Taylor was out there pitching your podcast to brands and securing sponsorship deals. Well, she's not yet, but she could be. Casey is Howdy's AI partnership agent, and she does something pretty wild. She actually secures sponsorships for your show, not a match list that you have to work through yourself, not a template you have to send. She handles the outreach, the follow-up, the whole thing, and brings back partners. You started your podcast because you had something worth saying. Casey makes sure that you get paid for saying it. Go meet Casey at gethowdy.com. That's GETHOWDI.com. 2 minutes to get started, then Casey takes it from there. That's Howdy Partnerships, gethowdy.com. Founders, you know better than anyone. The game changed overnight. Every industry runs on AI now. Medicine, law, finance, design, all of it. And while you're busy building the future, there's a whole generation of students about to enter the workforce who have no idea how to compete in it. AInativestudent.com fixes that. It's one-on-one AI coaching built specifically for high school and college students, personalized to their goals, their career path, their actual life. Your kid isn't learning to code, they're learning how to be fluent in the operating system of modern work. And colleges and employers, they're already noticing. Head to AInativestudent.com. It takes a couple minutes to apply for your student and lock in the 30-day money-back guarantee. The window to get ahead is right now. AInativestudent.com, and definitely have them sign up for the AI chat. It's the fastest growing for students in the world. Cool. So, which is to say, GEO, AEO, at its core is SEO principles are going to win the day.
LLMs need structured information so that they can crawl that effectively and log that effectively. Google needs the exact same thing. Google built the roadmap for this years ago on, look, this is author schema, this is image alt text, this is the meta description. They've given us boxes that we can fill in, and LLMs need information in boxes so they can process it. So what we found with GEO and SEO is GEO is 90% SEO. Make sure you have the right information. Make sure you have your title tags right. Make sure you have your image alt text. Make sure that you're doing everything that Google wants. And then to meet the GEO perspective, do some social listening. Go on to Reddit. See how your brand's being represented. Go engage on Reddit. Go engage and create YouTube videos. Go to events and get photos that then people share virally, because each piece of content that your team is putting out is essentially a line in the water. And it's a line in the water for people as well as for the AI or the Googles out there. If we are engaging in our community and then the news writes about us and we don't get a link, that's okay, because the LLMs will see that the news wrote about this brand in this context. So it's fantastic there. But that's just marketing. That's an omni-channel marketing approach where we don't just focus on digital marketing. We focus on digital. We focus on in-person. We focus on paid marketing. So when people are like, GEO is this revolution, they're really just expanding that SEO is not everything. SEO is the basis of your digital presence. But if you want to be a good organization at marketing, you need to be doing more. You need to have that in-person relationship. You need to be running ads. You need to be speaking on panels. You need to maybe not get a billboard, but you need to diversify where you're marketing rather than just SEO. So that's whenever people are like, well, is GEO the most important thing? I'm like, no. Doing all of marketing efforts is the most important thing. That's how you become a good marketer. That's how you become a good brand. That's how you become known amongst your field. It's not just devoting to SEO or just devoting to paid ads. One effort will kill you. You need to be doing everything in marketing if you really want to be successful in the long run.
Amazing. Let's talk dead internet theory. So people are going to make blog posts with Claude. They're going to upload it, and then the LLMs are going to let's say Claude uses the internet to craft the blog posts, and then it publishes a blog post. And at some point in the foreseeable future, maybe the next 12 months, all of the AI slop is going to be informing the next batch of AI slop that's out there. Now, how is Google treating kind of like AI generated content? Because there's a million different tools you can be like, that students are using to be like, or teachers really, to see how much of these papers are being generated by ChatGPT. So how is Google kind of like checking on AI driven content, and what are kind of the penalties if it, or maybe there's not a penalty, maybe there's a benefit. How is Google kind of treating AI generated content?
So I love this question because this is everybody's biggest fear of using AI to create anything is like, are the Google gods going to punish me? The answer is if you do a bad job of creating content, yes, Google will punish you. It doesn't matter if it's AI generated or human generated though. That's the major hurdle that people need to understand is Google has documentation going back to, I believe, 2023, maybe even a little bit earlier. Don't quote me on the date exactly, where they have outlined their perspectives on AI content. They don't care. They are absolutely okay with it as long as it provides actual information to the consumer. There is experience that's associated with that grounds it in reality. And it truly is informative. Like what we've found when writing content is when we're writing content in spaces that are a little bit more bleeding edge, we'll say new products or new consumer packaged goods that have never been created. There's a lot to write about, and that content gets ranked very easily because it's all net new in Google's eyes. Meanwhile, when we work with marketing agencies who are talking about basic SEO principles, people have been talking about basic SEO principles for 25 years, 30 years. Like, that is a well-researched topic that is pretty cut and dry. So Google doesn't really care that your new marketing agency, you wrote a blog about the 3 SEO tips. Like, that is a more competitive topic. And so Google may look at that content and say, it's less valuable. Maybe we won't index that content. So whether it be AI or human, you just need to deliver high quality information and high quality content. I think that's one of the issues with a lot of the AI content out there is people essentially, we used to spend time researching a topic, writing about it, editing it, and then posting it. Now people just write a prompt and say, hey, I need a blog on this topic. Cool. You got it done. You posted it. Great. You went from 3 hours to 3 minutes and then posted it, and you expected the exact same result from when you put 3 hours into it. That's not the reality. A lot of AI content generators don't do internal linking. They don't do external linking. They may not push the right formatting over into the CMS of your choice. They might not have images. The images might be recycled images that they're using for multiple different clients. So when it comes to AI generated content, it's just people expect to put in a fraction of the work and they expect the same result. You either need to put in a fraction of the work and expect a fraction of the result, or you need to work with somebody that's actually going to massage that information and increase the quality of it, because right now, one prompt is not going to get you to the point where Google is satisfied with what you have. The overarching concept of dead internet theory, quite honestly, is something that I think we all should be thinking about. I think that as the ability to produce content in volume is there, like as that increases and the quality becomes better, we are going to have a lot of regurgitation. And that's where I think people are going to need to step in. Obviously, my team uses AI to generate content in a high volume and high quality, but we still have people. And when we work with teams, we still encourage their team to keep that content writer and have that person go and focus on the more impactful, the more sensitive information, the product launches, the white papers, the download, the deck that you can download by entering your email, the things that are really going to drive your business forward or a bleeding edge for your business. Have a human write. Like, we don't want to just put out regurgitated slop out there. We have to do a little bit of that in order for Google to understand what we do so they can serve people up to our website. But people are very important in creating net new knowledge. And I think that that's how we avoid dead internet theory broadly. I think that there's some inability to avoid it, but people should continue to write content and people should continue to be the drivers of the highest level information that their business needs to put forth.
Like that word massage, because now our new roles are to develop taste and to be able to take kind of like AI content and massage it into something beautiful. So, as you're approaching a draft, your team's approaching a draft, what is the important taste that they're adding or they're subtracting to some of the AI drafts?
So brand context. We, in our system, we kind of bake that in inherently on our AI side, but we have copywriters that stay with the client for the lifetime of that contract. The reason that we do that is so we're not just having a content mill, we're having somebody that is actually overseeing that brand's voice for the lifetime of that engagement. AI has a neutral tone, right? Like, obviously you can kind of train it in different directions, but like, I saw a study recently that like the vast majority of the English language is slowly kind of narrowing down and we're all sounding more and more similar because we're using more and more AI. People are starting to pick up on what AI generated text looks like. So we as writers in this space, if we're using AI, it's our job to go in and make it sound like a person wrote it. Break up the monotony of that paragraph. Throw in a typo, like be human and say something silly from time to time. We don't always need to follow the formula that AI is going to print out. And so our copywriters are trained on that brand. They're also trained on, hey, like, what would you do? How would you write this? And then on the technical side, looking for link structure. Like I mentioned, a lot of AI is really not great at internal and external links. It can hallucinate links, or it can just pull links that are, how to say this, I guess topically relevant, but not relevant to that specific group. As in, say we're writing for a law firm. It may reference motor vehicle law, but for motorcycle, not a car. And we need this, this link to be car related. So that's the technical side that our team is looking for to make sure that the external links are all contextualized for the topic that we're writing about.
Amazing. I want to learn a little bit more about your business, but before we do, I got you here in the hot seat. Why don't you give us a checklist for good SEO, AEO, GEO, whatever the acronym is, for a high-ranking blog post? Kind of like, what are all the elements that go into creating just an absolute blockbuster post that will get indexed and ultimately drive traffic and leads?
Yeah, so I was going to start out with the topic itself. Go into the tool of your choice. We use SEMrush for a lot of stuff. Do some keyword research. Find out what is going to actually deliver people to your website. Like, is there enough search volume in this field? If there's only 3 people a month that are looking for the topic we're writing about, okay, that doesn't really provide measurable impact to our organization. But if we're going after a topic that is 30,000 search queries a month, fantastic. Like, if we can capture a percentage of that, that's a really great route to go after. The hurdle with that is the more volume, the higher the keyword difficulty can be. So you kind of need to find a blend of low keyword difficulty, high volume, so that you can rank relatively quickly in that, and then you can actually see the impact. So picking the topics you're going to go after, don't just throw like a random thing at the wall. Like, do some research. Make sure you're actually writing about things your customers are looking for. So topic is key. Content quality is massive. Make sure it's not just jargon. Make sure it's not just regurgitated things that you can copy and paste from another website and put onto your website. It's so bland that it doesn't provide value. You need to have high quality content. And then the next couple things I would say is, as I've kind of berated before, is link structure. Make sure you have internal links. Make sure you have external links. Even if the external links are two competitors, that's okay. The example I like to use is if I make physical phones, like a cell phone, and I write about that on my website, but I don't link to Apple or Samsung, we're showing the internet that we have a hole in our content or in our knowledge base. We're not referencing some of the largest phone manufacturers out there. Do we need to reference Apple in every single post? Absolutely not. But we should at least at some point reference some of the people that have come before us and some of the people that have great information. So links are massive. Most people only focus on internal links, but external links are a major driver. The next thing I would say is the data markup behind the blog itself. So, do you have your headers tagged appropriately? Do you have your H1? Do you have your H2? Do you have the author schema? Do you have image alt text behind your image itself? Things of that nature, make sure are set up. The last thing that I would say, coming from more focus on the GEO side, is question and answer based content. That one comes into the topic that you're going after, But for every blog that we write, we always put an FAQ at the bottom that really just kind of has the quick hits of that overall article. With AI search, people are looking for answers. So my goal is to answer all of the questions that could ever exist for this topic or this field before they're asked, so that when they're asked, it's a one-to-one, I have that answer. So FAQs tend to be very, very strong at helping you show up in AI search. So those are the things to look out for: is topic, content quality, link structure, data markup behind the content, and then have an FAQ, and you're in a pretty good spot.
Brilliant. I love it. Okay, let's talk about Nina. How big's the team? When did you get started? And what are your ideal customers?
Yeah, so we got a really small team right now. It's pretty much founder-led. We have just a handful of guys out there. We've been running officially since December or November of 2025, but we've been building this thing in the background since June of 2025. So we kind of, we're under the radar for a good 6 to 8 months, whatever that timeline is, just kind of figuring out how this thing works. Anybody can go to ChatGPT and say, write me a blog. The quality of that blog, the strategy behind that blog, the linking behind that blog, the editing you have to do, the formatting you have to do once you put it in your CMS is just time intensive. So it took us a long time to actually figure out, one, how do we connect an API into, Wix, WordPress, HubSpot, Webflow, all of the different CMSs. How do we get the right structure? How do we do the strategy? So a lot went into getting to the point where we felt good enough to actually, reveal that to the public. But very gratefully, the public has received it quite well, and we're growing at a pretty healthy clip.
Amazing. And who's your favorite clients? It seems like perfect for e-commerce. It seems perfect for B2B SaaS. Any kind of favorites?
I like to work with people that have a lot to write it out. That's where we are the most successful, and that's also the most fun because we get to learn about a lot. And I know that's a relatively vague kind of statement there, but we work with people in the travel industry. There's so much to talk about for travel. There's, the location, the weather, the food, the music, the culture, the top things to do in this area. There's just a wealth of content that we can write about that also I like to travel. It's informative for me, on that next trip we might go on, but also it's just really interesting. We've also found a ton of success and really enjoy working in the home building space because there's a lot of code. There's a lot of technical things that need to be covered when you're looking at the contractor or the home builder you're going to work with. So for us, that's a fun technical challenge to make sure that we're never representing information wrong. And it similar, like we get to learn about the areas that we're writing about. We're not just putting stuff into ChatGPT and then blindly posting it. Like we're actually reviewing this and engaging in it. But I would say the people that we do well with, it's like I said, a ton to talk about because you have a lot of SKUs, you operate in a lot of locations. And e-commerce is a great place because you actually see the value in e-commerce. Some businesses spend so much time on their websites, but they don't transact through their website. They need one client a month, or they don't need volume. E-commerce teams need volume so that they can convert at specific percentages and then bring those people down that funnel. So we enjoy e-com because it is a direct one-to-one that we can show of, cool, you invested this into us, into content, and cool, now we can actually see the purchases that were made, how they got onto your website, and it's very easy for us to show our value there. So never going to say no to e-com because that's a win for everybody.
Yeah. And let's talk about the results a little bit. So, let's say we're starting at zero. We're just getting the content program going. We open up the search console. You can see where you're at. Like, okay, we have impressions, we have clicks. Like, how soon should people expect to start to seeing a lift? And kind of like, what are you looking for within that search console? Because it gives you kind of limited information in there.
It definitely does. And that's why, one, make sure you have Search Console, make sure you have Google Analytics set up on your website. That's just a baseline for everybody. If you have the money or if you're working with an agency, have them pull some SEMrush reports for you. We use SEMrush, Ahrefs, and Moz, but we rely on SEMrush for a lot of keyword understandings. And our timeline for impact really ranges based on domain authority. Domain authority is a major driver of your success online because it's just your relevancy to Google. And so what we found is with people that have domain authorities above, call it 35, their content is indexed faster, and we're able to start seeing keyword growth within 1 to 3 weeks We're able to see impression growth within 2 to 4 weeks, and then click growth between, call it 2 to 6 weeks, really depending on the topics that we're going after. So with lower domain authority websites, I would say push all those timelines back by a week or two. Our team does manually go through and index the content so we can kind of compress that timeline as quick as we can. But our goal is that there's positive indicators within the first 4 weeks of our engagement. We initially look for keyword growth. Honestly, that's why I love what we do, is we get to look at third-party graphs that validate the efficacy of what we do. And so keyword growth comes first, impression growth comes after that, click growth, and then the long-standing metric that we're looking for is domain authority growth over 6 to 12 months.
Unbelievable. So, used to be like, okay, we're thinking about a SEO plan. This has got probably like 6 months of legs, but you're saying it's in weeks.
Yes, for initial impact. I don't want to go and say that we're going to change your world, overnight and within this first month. A lot of SEO is a time game because we need to build that credibility with Google and with Bing and with the LLMs. We always push people, let's do something for 3 months. And then at 3 months, let's step back and see where we can improve. Is this the right effort for you? What do we need to tweak? But what we've found is, content is only one aspect of your website. It's, call it 10 to 15% of your website. SEO could be 50% of it. So we're underneath SEO. So content's great, but make sure your site has good load times. Make sure you don't have any 404 errors. Make sure that your site is healthy, and that will help our content improve. So we are a part of a larger system. And when people have a sound system that we get to plug into, those results come very quickly. If you don't have a sound system, we normally catch that within the first, couple weeks and are able to say, hey, these are edits that you should make that are outside of the content space that will just help your site and us perform overall.
Cool. Okay, I just went to Moz and they have a free domain authority checker. So I put it in for the podcast, aiforfounders.co, which it's about a year old at this point. I have a domain authority of 10, 8 linking root domains, 2 ranking keywords, a spam score of 2%. How dare you? It's got top pages by link. It has top linking domains, which is Beehive, which makes sense because that's our newsletter. And then it lists Transistor FM, Podcast Republic. A lot of different podcast players are giving kind of some backlinks. How cooked am I, and what can I do to improve?
Honestly, you're not cooked at all. That 2% spam score, not alarming at all. So there are farms and sites out there that link to everything, and they are malicious. The goal is obviously we don't have many of those, but most sites have a couple negative links of just a directory out of, Eastern Europe or something that it's linked to. I'm assuming that, the 2% down there is probably some BS links. But that's a relatively healthy score. Like you said, domain authority is a timeline thing plus a backlinking and on-site content effort. So for you guys, it's let's go and put more content on site. Let's go and get more backlinks. It's the same thing that most other people need to do is you need to let Google know who you are, what we're talking about, why we're doing it. So that when people are searching for information on the AI space, we pop up. So the prescription, if you will, is the same. Put more on-site content and get some of those backlinks. One of the biggest benefits you have is by having this podcast, you have the transcripts, you have the show notes. So I would really recommend putting each podcast on the website as its own, page underneath a larger category, and then actually have the transcript right there. Transcripts of podcasts and of audio recordings are really great because it packs a lot of natural language into your website. We're not keyword packing. We are putting words in that are relative to what the audience is looking for. That's a really big benefit we've seen with podcasts in general is, yes, there's some linking value, but also, however long we talk for, there's 10, 20, 30, 40 minutes of words that we can now put onto our website that are contextually relevant.
Yeah. With podcast transcripts, I've considered doing that. And instead, I kind of will do summations of frameworks, of experiments to run, summaries, links, kind of that. Largely because when you read podcast transcripts, it's terrible.
Yeah.
So much in a conversation is communicated with like body language or a twinkle in the eye or humor. that when you see it written out, you're like, boy, this guy's barely literate. So I was kind of horrified by my transcripts. Do you think it's worth it to do an attachment page to that page where if somebody wanted to click in and read the transcript, it's there? But I'm worried about kind of turning people off to that actually land on that page.
That is a very, very valid, red flag to raise. And I would say, I mean, what you're doing is positive. You are providing contextual information on the site already. I'd have to look through, how long these summaries are. The primary value of actually having that transcript is truly just like the length, the amount of words that we're saying. You can get that onto the site. What you're doing is probably great already. So do we need to make a second page? No. I would just look at the structure at which you're uploading that in. Make sure you have the right structure. Make sure that the H1s are really snappy and keywords focused. It doesn't just say, the person's name, end of the business. It's what we're talking about and then the person's name in the business. Google's looking for a lot of title tags when they're looking for keywords. So making sure that we have the relevant keywords in that title tag is probably going to be the biggest impact for you.
Okay. Amazing. And I realize I'm just getting free consulting here with this podcast interview, but I think it's helpful for people to hear, largely because I'm very bullish on podcasting for a lot of obvious reasons, but like, it's been so good to me and like, done 8 figures in revenue, large to podcasting. And for founders listening to this, it's like, dude, start a podcast. The tangible results are difficult to like, it doesn't fit on a spreadsheet neatly. I'll put it that way. But the long tail effects of podcasting, there's so many opportunities.
It's immense. I was just going to say that I think that people really I don't want to say discount individual marketing efforts like podcasting, because it's like, wow, that takes time, that takes effort. Email marketing. So many people are like, I don't want to do email. It just takes a long time. It's not going to lead to anything. A lot of marketing efforts suck, and you're going to suck at it for a year or 2 years. Marketing is a game of resiliency. And like I saw a stat a while ago, to be in one of the top couple percentage of podcast hosts, you need to get like 20 to 30 podcasts out there. So it's just resilience. If you can last, you can really grow that audience. And I mean, you've done it on the podcast side, you've done it on the email side, picking the lane that you're going to be in and just continuing to go forward. Don't quit when there's a bump the road. Don't quit when there's a massive spike and you think you've made it. Like, you just need to keep doing the marketing efforts. And the vast majority of the time you get better at it and it works out better for you.
Yeah. As a content play, I just checked, I've got 443 pages indexed in Google, which I'm stoked for, but we're really doing like kind of creative things. So we have the episodes, of course. So every episode has its page. Then every founder, their product goes into our selected resources, which are, top products for 2026. So each of those companies has its own page where we kind of break down what it is, who it's for, why it's better. And then we pull all the frameworks that founders talk about because, I'm so lucky to talk to industry experts like you, where you can break down exactly like, this is exactly how you want to structure blog posts. Good luck. But that becomes a framework. And then there's 243 frameworks from the conversations we've had on this podcast, 140 episodes or whatever. Then we do AI founder experiments, so little projects if people want to do. We have a glossary on there. So it's like, there's so much opportunity around podcasting to create this like really cool content. So it's always trying to figure out ways to spin it out. One, for like people that would be interested, I put the glossary on there for me because I get so lost in these acronyms. But I don't even know what we're talking about anymore. I talk to, data scientists. I'm like, bro, we're going to have to break down all those letters and numbers because I have no idea what you're talking about.
I think the idea of content having legs is so important because like you're taking this one podcast and breaking it down into these different resources. And like a lot of people in marketing, they do something once and then that was the effort. They didn't actually, push it into all the different social platforms, turn into a blog post, turn it into something that the CEO is sharing on LinkedIn. Like exactly what you're doing is what people should be doing. Is if we record something, make sure it has 3 to 5 use cases. If we're posting something, make sure it can go to 3 to 5 different platforms. Like the legs of content is super, super important.
100%. And, Nina becomes very important because, I can talk about these things I'm doing and I record 3 or 4 hours of podcasts a week. I've been doing this for 10 years. And I've worked with so many podcast people that are like, oh, their enthusiasm for doing podcasts is real big in the beginning. They get through 3 or 4 episodes, like, dude, this is a lot of work. It's like, yeah, man, it really is. It's a lot of work, and the results sometimes are intangible. I like to be like, oh, look at my pages are being indexed. That's a big win for me. But some folks, treat their time a little bit different. So when you have Nina, it's like, okay, yeah, look at the opportunities for content we have all over the place. And, Kaelan and his team is going to go take us over the top, because looking at charts that go up and to the right, it's always satisfying. It's the best.
And absolutely is. And I think that a lot of people are forced into marketing because they're a business owner, or they had, an independent business owner that's just getting started, or they had somebody on their marketing team leave and now they need to kind of step into that role, and they're looking for quick wins. There's very few quick wins in marketing, and it is a game of resiliency. And, doing those three podcasts and quitting isn't going to show you the results. And that's why I think teams like me, like Nina, are a really great resource, because our job is to basically make blog content, set it and forget it. As a marketer, you need to do everything everywhere all the time. So as many set it and forget it efforts as you can build and kick off, the better for you, because you have other people working on your behalf, or a system that's working on your behalf. And can you go and write blog posts? Absolutely. How much time is it going to take? What does the formatting look like? Blah, blah, blah. Like, sometimes it's easier to just offload some of that effort so you can focus on what's more important. Because like I said, blogs are not the primary driver of your site's success. They're a contributing factor. Go put your time elsewhere. Go put your time in actually building your business. And I think that's every aspect of business, right? Focus on what you're good at, and then outsource the rest to other people that are great at the things you're outsourcing them to take on. A lot of business owners struggle at letting go, and letting go of the things you're not great at and giving them to experts is such a better use of your time and your money than just trying to, bullishly kind of learn everything yourself and do everything yourself. Because at scale, you can't do it all. There's only 24 hours in a day.
Yeah. And, now, especially with AI, it's like invest in expertise, because, the companies will hire me as a host for their podcast because they give it a shot and they realize just talking in front of a glowing rectangle is actually not the easiest thing in the world, So they're like, oh, get Ryan to do it, and I'll get them started, So in this case, it's like, yeah, you could just like take AI Slop and put it on your website and, cross your fingers, hope something good happens. Invest in expertise. And I think that's where what you're doing is so important. Okay, so we're at that time of the podcast. We're ready to enter the quantum round. Are you ready for this?
Yeah, let's do it.
You have no choice. Okay. What is your favorite cue when you read something that it was written by AI? And I'll go first. The one that took me a while now to discover is where they're like, that's not an optimized blog post, that's a dumpster fire. Every time I see that, that's not a blank, that's a blank, I'm like, I get it, Claude, right there. See, I see your signature.
That is a good one, and honestly, probably the direction I was going to go. I mean, everybody knows M dashes, even though regular people use M dashes, that's a very surface level thing. The comparison is also a very common one. Short paragraphs tend to be a good sign of AI content. The word discovered, the word enabled, like some of those buzzwords, if they're used in more often than a regular person would write, like most people don't say the word discovered more than once or twice in an article. In some AI content, you can see that there's like, cool, that word was used 7 times and it's at the beginning of each paragraph. So cool, they're just dropping that buzzword in. I would say that repetition is the go-to tell for me right out of the gate.
Yeah. I always say, like, try not to say moat and don't say leverage. It's like,
I also I'm gonna tangent one quick second if you'll let me. You mentioned AI checkers before. Everybody's like, oh, we got to get by AI checkers. As we said before, Google does not care about AI. As long as it's good AI, it's good content. So a lot of people are like, well, does it pass an AI checker? If you want to pass an AI checker, put a typo in. If you put a typo in, the vast majority of AI checkers will now just say it's human generated. So it's like that shows how elementary the AI checkers are currently. And if you're going to judge quality of content on an AI checker, and I know that I'll just put in a typo and cool, it's 100% human written. Like that's an easy game to play.
Yeah. I like the Harry Potter game too. It's like, just take a brick of Harry Potter text and put it in there. It'd be like, this is 40% AI generated.
Exactly. You drop in a press release and same thing.
Yeah, totally. Okay, cool. What part of your personality has changed the most since becoming an entrepreneur?
That's a really great question. I think I'm going to say self-confidence. I was working in startups before, kind of going out on my own. And in the startup world, you have to be confident to begin with. You have to believe in what you have. But I was believing in somebody else's mission and somebody else's vision. So going out on my own and all of a sudden being the person that has to back up all of the words, and entirely and validate everything is a really, really scary thing. But once you do that and that becomes a part of who you are, you take a lot more pride in stuff, at least for me personally. And so by running my own businesses and being my own boss, it's taught me that I can do anything. It's just a matter of time in order to get there. And sometimes it's worth paying somebody to be the expert and lead me there. And other times it's worth just putting my head down and becoming the expert. And so I would say my confidence in my ability to just execute and learn things quickly is grown the most since opening up my own shops.
Incredible. Cool. Aside from Nina, what else are you building with AI right now, or what experiments are you running?
Well, it's all under the Vina name, if you will. It's not necessarily released yet, but we're starting to look at what we found is that on-site content can really manipulate ChatGPT, but it doesn't manipulate other LLMs in the same way. So we're starting to look at a high volume of press releases or leveraging press releases to manipulate Claude. Press releases don't have an SEO value the same way they used to, but they have that GEO value that we were talking about. So we're looking at how do we start pushing press releases on a press wires at a low cost, at a high quality, at a high rate. We're also looking at how do we engage with the Reddit community in an organic way so we can manipulate LLMs. My goal and our true north is how can we get our clients to show up in Google search, but also LLM search at a higher rate than their competitors. So just staying on the bleeding edge of those models and understanding how they're pulling information is where we want to be. That's the primary focus. And, we hope to be that high volume, high content, high quality household within the next 6 to 12 months, hopefully.
Amazing. Should we expect that your next two projects will be the Pinta and Santa Maria?
Potentially, we like naming nomenclature. The name of this business is actually built off the name of a previous business I have. So we like to kind of, string things through, and that's a pretty organic growth route, especially if we stay in content. It might be, I'll give you a little credit if that's the route we go.
That'd be cool. Although it's kind of, I guess it's, Christopher Columbus is a little bit of a sensitive subject because he was such a psychotic murderer.
Yeah, not necessarily the best background or the best thing to build from. I would more look at, the Lonely Island and some of their songs as the reference that I'd be leaning on.
Yeah, that's like my favorite episode of The Sopranos when Tony starts losing his mind because people were like, there was backlash on Christopher Columbus. At this point,
Yep.
It's, whatever. But in the 90s, it was still kind of like he was
Big
a
deal.
sacred person for Italians. So like there's like a great scene where there's some protest and the indigenous Native Americans are like fighting with Tony and his gang. It's so funny, and the cops are getting involved. It's great.
That show is wild. Tony Soprano is an absolute icon, a dangerous icon, but an icon nonetheless.
Amazing. Okay. Want to give a shout out to Chick Mission, which is important to you and your family. Give us a little overview of Chick Mission. People can check that out. It's thechickmission.org.
Yeah, Chick Mission's a great group that my wife has been involved with. They help women that are about to go into breast cancer treatment, freeze their eggs so that they have the opportunity to have children down the line in the event they're young women. So some of them my wife has been involved with, been a big supporter of for a long time. So I wanted to give them a shout out as they're doing some really great things. Breast cancer impacts way too many people in this country. And a lot of people don't know about the impact that it could have on fertility until they're kind of going through that. Chick Mission helps them learn about that, as well as helps cover some of the costs of fertility treatment and that egg freezing process. So just a great group that we like to support.
Incredible. Ladies and gentlemen, SEO through classic Google and LLM recommendations is an absolute game changer for your business. You have to do it. And you know you don't have time for it and you don't have the expertise. That's why you got to go to trynina.co and talk to Kaelan. He'll onboard you, walk you through it. Kaelan, I really appreciate you coming on the show and talking to us all about this way we can create distribution for our products. What's the best place for people to connect with you personally online?
I would say if you go to the trynina.co website, you can actually go and schedule a call right there. Right now, we are still small enough, so I, as one of the co-founders here, am actually taking all those calls. So you can go book a call on my calendar right there, or feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. It's Kaelan Donadio. I'm probably one of the only Kaelans out there, so it should pop up pretty quick for you.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a great day, guys.
Every week, I sit down and ask myself one question. What do founders actually need to know about AI right now? Not the think pieces or the stuff that sounds impressive, the real useful put it to work today stuff. Then I write it up, send it to you in your inbox free. That newsletter is called AI for Founders, and I built it because I was tired of wading through hit pieces and people that are afraid of the future. Each issue, I break down the tools worth your time, the strategies that are working, and the ways you can use AI to grow your company without burning out or getting left behind. Thousands of founders read it every week, and I'd love for you to be one of them. Subscribe for free at aiforfounders.co. 3 seconds to sign up, and I promise it's worth it. If Instagram changed their algorithm tomorrow, how many of your followers on Instagram could you actually reach? Now ask yourself, how many people are on your email list? The gap right there is the gap between a personal brand you're borrowing and one that you actually own. The best founders in the world, the ones getting the deals, the stages, and the inbound, they have newsletters. They show up in inboxes every week. They build real relationships at scale. Inbox Alchemy makes that happen for you. They write your weekly founder newsletter, build you a stunning newsletter website, and grow your list to 25,000 engaged subscribers in 6 months. All managed end-to-end, so it's generating pipeline while you focus on building your company. Algorithms are someone else's decision. Your email list is yours forever. Head to inboxalchemy.co and start building the audience no one can take away from you.